Hello, everyone. This is Critical Mess. We are back again. This is episode 13, Lucky 13. I'm Nick Honeywell. I'm here with my buddies, Grizz Griswold and Brian McCullough. Producer Ben is still on hiatus, unfortunately. I think he still loves us, though. I'm sure he does. But say what's up, dudes.
Hey, this is Brian McCullough. I promise this is the last time I'll bore you with my 10 favorite movies of all time, but we are on number 10, Jurassic Park.
Ooh, solid selection. What's going on, everybody? Let's do this.
All right. Before we jump into tonight's film, we're going to do an icebreaker. And actually, we're going to do two icebreakers.
Yes.
Because we have a
Shatter
prepared...
that ice.
That's right. We're going to bust that ice right up because we have a prepared icebreaker. Just because Mr. McCullough over here thought of this and thought it might be good to give us a little prep time for the question. And we also have an unprepared icebreaker. So we will start with the prepared version. And that question is, what movie is a good movie, maybe even a great movie, but it has one thing in it? Could be a scene or maybe a particular actor or just some sort of plot device, one thing in it that just really bothers you and takes that film down for you. Doesn't necessarily ruin the movie, but something that just stands out in a film that you like that's really bad. Anybody want to begin on that?
Yeah, I'll start since it was my question. The movie that made me ask this question was one that I watched recently, and it's a movie that I've loved my whole life, but it's got absolutely horrid critic reviews and audience reviews. But I still contend that it is a very, very good movie, with one exception. The movie is Nothing But Trouble, starring Chevy Chase, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd. He plays many people in the movie. But what ruins the movie for me, and you guys, it is a good movie. Watch this movie. Watch the practical sets. The story is clever. I love the look Nick's giving me right now. It's one of absolute disgust. Yeah. It's hilarious. The brother and sister from Brazil are so good. Chevy Chase is on point. John Candy's great. He's got a great character arc. I'm not going to go on more than that, but I will say what ruins the movie for me is those fucking big-ass, greasy babies that live in the junkyard. Those giant adult babies. What?
Yeah. So Molly and I watched this recently, and we thought it would be funny to have like Crosby watch it as a 10-year-old and just see his reaction to it. And like he thought it was laugh out funny. Like he thought it was funny, but he's more of into like the mid-2000 comedies. But I could not believe how much I remembered from this film and how funny it was. But I mean, I guess they were just goofball characters, I guess, in a...
Okay, there's a lot of gross out humor in the movie and a lot of weird things, but I find it all very endearing and very, kind of rustic, or that's not the right word, but I really enjoy watching the movie, and it's a really scary movie.
Yeah.
But it's a comedy. But those babies, god damn those babies.
That movie was like beautifully gross. It was just like everything, the texture of all the scenes, the sets, everything was just so good.
Yeah, really great sets. Nick, you hate that movie,
Nick's
right?
Quick stare, his neck snapped to the left just to look at Brian's face. Yeah, it was great.
I fucking hate that movie. You're right, and I don't even want to get into why.
Yeah, let's not. It's, by the way, it's not on our list, so you're never going to have to hear an episode about that, listener.
Just go watch for yourself.
Grizz, what you got?
Mine is a recent film that everyone raved about for the longest time, A Barbarian. So something about that film, I thought I was just like on edge and curious about the entire thing the whole way through. Like the halfway point when it jumps to like a completely different set. And I'm forgetting his name, the main character.
Skarsgård?
No. Why am I
talking about Justin Long?
Yeah, Justin Long. Oh my God, I can't even think of his name. So I listened to his podcast, but Justin Long pops up and you're like, what the fuck is this movie? It's completely different than what I was watching. And it goes through, and then the ending just completely killed it for me. Just the CGI, the poor, like, slow death, like, all, spoiler alert, but it's just, I was just terrible.
Can I clarify? Does the ending ruin the movie for you, or are you saying it's a good movie except that's the glaring weakness?
I think that did ruin the movie for me. Like that, just how real and how like interesting, intrigued, and like creeped out I was by the whole film. I mean, I was on edge with a lot of those scenes, and like it felt real. And then you get to the end, and it's just like a CGI mess in the dark on top of a thing, and dies, and there's a weird, awkward moment with a mother. It's just really weird. I just thought it was dumb. And then the movie ends, and yeah.
I really just kind of, man, I disagree with some of these movies you guys like here, or some things about these movies you guys like. I guess I thought the ending of that movie was kind of brilliant. I see what you're, some of the technical aspects of it.
It's something like that
I
where
could
the
see
movie
could
was
be a
just
problem.
flawless the whole way through, and then it just instantly
I liked
jumped.
the kind of the tone shift at the very, very, very end. I don't know. That's just me though. But great movie. I think we
It
can
was
agree that
very
it was
good.
it was
It
a,
was
it was a
very
very
good.
good movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
so we can all agree there. Okay, my answer is actually going to be a movie I really do love that came out in 2001, Enemy at the Gates. This is I don't know.
There is nothing wrong with that movie.
There is something wrong with that movie.
Don't you say the love scene. Don't you say the sex scene.
Oh, you better believe I'm
You
going to say that
motherfucker.
dirty, dirty sex scene where they just roll around in the mud and just like groan in that room full of people, and it just feels wrong to me. And I was probably whatever, this is 2001. I was in high school, and I was especially at that time that probably really stood out to me a little more than it might today. But my goodness, I mean, I get it. I get they were in love. They just didn't need to have that dirty sex. It was gross, and it felt off, and it kind of took the movie down a small notch for me. But great movie overall.
I think we just lost all three of our female viewers because I think that tends to be a favorite amongst the female crowd, that scene.
I know, and that's actually I heard that from my girlfriend at one point. She was like, I love that scene, and I just was, and we had a small disagreement about it, but that's okay.
That's okay. You know what? Stay tuned if you're listening. We'll win you back. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yes. Indeed. Stay tuned. Okay. Now we are going to move on to the unprepared icebreaker. It's a long icebreaker segment tonight, but we like our icebreaker segment. So here's the question.
Slow
gentlemen.
burning ice.
Yes. What is, and just the first thing, don't overthink this one, guys. What's just a brilliant shot or sequence in a film, right? A brilliant take. It could be 30 seconds, it could be 20 minutes, but just a piece of the film that's small, but it's just something that especially is just especially brilliant to you. It could be the dialogue or just the way it's shot, or just something that's just always stood out to you. And it doesn't have to be your favorite of all time, but what's just something that jumps to mind that you think is just rather beautifully done?
The collapse of all the buildings while the Pixies is playing at the very end of Fight Club. While Edward Norton and Helena Bonham Carter hold hands, looking out upon the destruction.
It's a great answer. Incredibly striking and powerful moment. Yeah,
Great choice. I have to go with the docking scene in Interstellar when he says that line. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's necessary. And like that is just the soundtrack going up and him playing that line and trying to dock, and like the whole sequence is just gorgeous from the weight of the moment, everything. It's brilliant. So,
yep. Excuse me. I'm going to go with, just for whatever reason, this just popped in my head. In the Todd Phillips Halloween reboot, the first one from a few years ago, there's just this really brilliant, about halfway through the movie, tracking shot of Michael Myers walking through the neighborhood on Halloween night, and it's just kind of like this over-the-shoulder shot. I don't know how long it lasts. Maybe it's not super long, a couple minutes or something like that. But it's a beautiful shot, and the contrast of you just got this like stone cold murderer walking in this crowd of these innocent kids, kind of on Halloween, and how creepy that is, and the way he kind of goes through this Midwestern neighborhood and into this perfectly staged garage. It looks, exactly like a garage I would have seen in my neighborhood, and grabs a hammer, or I think it's a hammer, and goes in the house. And anyways, it's just a beautifully, well, it's not beautiful, it's actually horrific, but beautifully shot scene that I just thought was really awesome, and a really good movie overall, one of the better reboots out there. So
I'll say that scene is kind of conversely to the first question. That scene took an otherwise pedestrian movie for me and elevated it. Just that scene alone.
sure,
So
yeah,
good.
Yeah, I'm glad that stood out to you a lot, because
Yep.
it really, obviously stood out to me. So
Very atmospheric.
Yep. Okay. Tonight, we are talking about a film that was made for Netflix, actually. Our first in that category. And we will, of course, be spoiling the shit out of this movie if you haven't seen it. So, and it's a pretty new movie. It came out, I believe, in last year. So, that movie, of course, is The Gray Man. It was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. It stars Ken from the Barbie movie, Captain America, our old pal Billy Bob, Anna de Armas, and I don't know. Do you guys know how to pronounce this guy's name? It's like Reggie Jean Page, Rege, Jean Page, Reggie
idea.
Jean Page.
No
I don't. I apologize to you, Reggie Jean, or however you pronounce it. I'm sure I'm completely butchering that. I'm sure it's a French name. I'm sure it's beautiful when pronounced in French. So 1,000 pardons to you, sir. So this film had actually a huge budget. When I saw the budget for this, I was like, holy shit, it's gigantic. $200 million for this Netflix exclusive film. And it made 2.5 times the budget, so it was a pretty big success. Or Netflix says it made 2.5 times the budget, and I don't think anyone can truly check that. Or at least according to their methodology, it did. So, whatever. That's a boatload of money. So it was a success financially. So this movie, it fits our criteria. What is our criteria for movies on this show? So, to be a movie we talk about, it has to be either fresh, or it has to be fresh with critics and rotten with audiences, or vice versa. And that disparity has to be at least 20%. So, our movie, The Gray Man, here tonight has a pretty stinky 45% with critics, and I'd say a pretty sexy 90% with audiences. So we got a big gap here on this one. Actually, a pretty huge gap. So let's get into this, gentlemen. But before we do, I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor tonight, Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It's the only bourbon whiskey we drink here on Critical Mass. It is 90 proof, bitch.
Yeah, that's a great description. Also, our good old Modede.
Is it? And I'm sorry, I want to clear something up about that. So
I don't think there's any clearing it up.
Well,
this is just going to get more.
So it's we were talking about this a couple episodes ago, and it's Modelo. What's the proper way to pronounce that? And I guess the answer, I'd been saying Modelo, is probably Modelo. So I just want to take this opportunity to just apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. So
it's Modede for me from now on.
Well, whatever you want to call it, Brian, that's fine with me. But anyways, we still love you, Modelo, and we're sipping with you tonight as well. So thank you. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Let's get into this. I want to talk about our first exposure to this film, The Gray Man. How many times have we seen this film? Probably not that many times because it came out last year. But tell me, when did you see it? How many times have you seen it?
I got to start since I picked this last episode. But I saw it when it came out, or released on Netflix, if you will. I was excited about it. And great cast, interesting idea. And then the trailer looked intriguing, especially with the Russo brothers directing and writing. Their first outing after the Avengers saga that they went through. But yeah, watched it when it came out, and then again this week. So
yeah, I've got a Netflix subscription. I knew it was coming out. I knew it was a huge budget movie. I wanted to see if it would match something that would come out in the theater. So, and I like the two leading spy versus spy characters, and then Ana de Armas is she's nice too. So I watched it last year and watched it again yesterday.
All right, and I watched it last night for the first time and only had sort of a cursory awareness of this movie even existing. So.
Perfect.
So yeah. So let's rate this movie, guys. What did we score this thing?
Go ahead, Grizz.
Brian's looking around. Can't wait to put a 22 on this thing. But
no.
I'm going to go with an 82 out of 100. I really enjoyed this movie for what it was and the action. It felt like a wonderful 80s action flick in today. So it's a nice. I don't know what I would call it. Mission Impossible meets Fast and Furious meets Die Hard. I don't know what you would call it, but I thought it was a lot of fun. So Rip it apart, Brian. Rip it apart.
You know, I have a pet peeve whenever the first way that a movie is described generally is this meets this meets this, because it almost means that the movie wasn't its own thing. And it's funny because one of my first reactions to it was, this is the Bourne Identity mixed with Man on Fire. And then I read some critical reviews, and everyone was just hodgepodging 2 or 3 various movies and saying this movie is like those movies. So I think that's a red flag. I give it a 47 out of 100.
Yeah, please don't disparage Man on Fire like that.
No. I'm sorry.
No,
the Bourne Identity
I'm
and Man on Fire are both great movies.
I know. I was just joking. joking. But
Usually it's people saying it's a hodgepodge of really good movies that are their own things.
There's a sprinkling of Mission Impossible there, too,
and James Bond,
and James Bond. We'll probably get into this a little bit more, but you're onto something there for sure. All right, I am going to give this movie a 54. I kind of liked it, kind of didn't like it. It's funny. The older I get, the less tolerance I have for action movies, even though it's historically a genre I really do like, and action done well is maybe my favorite thing. But this was kind of a middling action movie to me. There was some cool stuff to like, but I didn't love it. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more here. So kind of a big disparity here tonight, I guess.
You guys are what, 50-ish range?
Yeah.
40, 50 range? Yeah.
I'm in, like, I didn't hate it range, but I definitely didn't think it was that good of a movie.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not different enough that it stands out on its own, but I definitely thought it was very enjoyable for general audience. But I just liked it because I liked those 2 actors. I thought it was interesting that they did something that was not normal for them, especially Chris Evans going villain. So
hey, I've got some.
We're going to talk.
I've
about
got
that.
some things about Chris Evans. I'm glad you brought that up.
We are going to talk about that for sure. I mean, how could we not? It's a standout.
Our pretty boy Captain America coming in hot.
It's a very salient part of this film.
Chris Evans is a better villain than a hero.
Oh boy.
Ooh, hot. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I've got 3 movies to back that up. So
but he's a shitty actor overall, right? So that doesn't really matter.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Just joking, Chris. We love you.
I don't think so.
I'm just joking. I don't really have strong feelings about Chris
I
Evans.
hope Chris Evans and Keanu Reeves break down your door and just steal your Ninja Turtle figurines.
Yeah. I hope they break down my door and just give me a vintage motorcycle and we go on an adventure together. That's
better.
That's what I would like. Anyways.
Sounds like a movie we'd review.
Yeah, I would review that.
Yeah, that could be fun. Okay. So let's start talking here, guys. About there's a huge disparity here, right? What was it? 90% for audiences and 45% with critics. So a pretty big one. Let's talk about why that is. And I think it's interesting that we in this group have a big disparity as well. So hopefully we can speak to this. So what do you guys think? And let's also if we want to read a few reviews, we can do that too.
Well, I think if we start with the synopsis or the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, again, I don't know who writes this stuff, especially these newer movies that have both a critics consensus and an audience says consensus. I'm not sure. I'm sure it all comes from Rotten Tomatoes, but it's very interesting that we have both. Critics' consensus at a 45%. The Gray Man has the star-studded outline of an entertaining action thriller, but it's filled in with lukewarm leftovers from far better films. So again, kind of saying, it's kind of like other films. It's lukewarm. It's not great. Kind of what in line with what we were saying just now. Now the audience at a 90% says, "Add this one to your queue with confidence. Action fans. The Gray Man has a great cast, exciting set pieces, and a solid story." And I'm not going to disagree with that, but I don't know how that makes a 90%.
Add with confidence. That's strong.
Well,
I should have said add with prejudice.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. From our writer, Nick Honeywell.
You're such a copywriter.
That's good though.
And if I may, I'll let you chime in here, Grizz. But I just kind of wanted to read those 2 kind of summaries here. But if I got to read this critic, this guy just put it so well. Adam Kempenar from Film Spotting. God bless you. Just the best sentence I've read in response to a movie. And he gave it a 3 out of 5, so he didn't hate it. And this is so perfect. The most glam dad enjoys while folding laundry movie ever.
I did see that. That was pretty good. Yeah,
that is
perfect.
That is good.
That's perfect.
That's strong.
Grizz, what do you think, man? I guess maybe if you want to represent the audience, because I think you're rating fell in line with the audience ratings.
Yeah.
Throw out some of the highlights that you think both you and the general audience resonated with.
I think it's tough because I don't like to go back and say, I don't like the reviews that are just, this is a hodgepodge of this movie and this movie and this movie and combined to make this or whatever. I do look at movies and films or whatever, and you can look at any movie and critique the shit out of it and say it's a piece of shit, even if it's the greatest film rated both top and bottom. I think the thing about this is it was outrageously entertaining. It had a cast that was not willing to let up on their characters. It was simple plot. I think it's very similar to John Wick, if you will. Even though that was even more simple. But I don't know. I think I just miss those 80s, 90s action flicks that I grew up on, and this felt like that. In comparison to Red Notice, which came out, I think, roughly the same time, or another Netflix action film that had $100 to $200 million budget, which all fell completely flat for me and weren't funny or entertaining. This just felt a lot different in the realm of, I don't know if it was just Ryan Gosling being outrageously dark and grim in this movie, and then Chris Evans having the time of his life, it seemed, as a villain for the first time. Or not the first time, but a really twisted, fucked up villain. I'd love to see him in a whole nother movie, just him alone.
Oh, I think they're trying to set up a franchise.
No,
here.
I know for a fact they're writing a second one of this. I know it was like a franchise setup kind of thing. But I don't know. It's hard for me not to look at it and just enjoy it as a movie and not sit there and critique too much, because it's an action film. It's a spy thriller. It's espionage. You have the good guys, the bad guys. There were enough twists that made it interesting to me throughout the film, and then there was plenty of action nonstop throughout.
If I may stop you right there,
Yeah.
You literally could have just been talking about Red Notice with those last 2 or 3 sentences you said. And I bring that up because not only is Red Notice on our list, but it has a almost identical split between audience and critics, and it came out the year before, and it had an identical $200 million budget, and it was a Netflix original. Now, You did not like Red Notice. You did like The Gray Man. I'm curious if you could distill all of that down into one thing. What was the difference between the two movies?
The difference is Red Notice knew what it was in this comedy rather than a dark comedy. I think there's a very an action comedy versus a dark comedy.
So tonally,
I
they're
think
different.
tonally
Okay.
this had far better weight for a dark comedy than it did Red Notice, which was a full-blown comedy. I mean, the way it looked, the way it was created, edited, shot, everything. I give a lot of credit to the Russo brothers for grounding this enough that you felt like it was somewhat real. There were a few CG moments that you kind of felt like, all right, what the fuck? What are they doing? But I know they had a lot of practical sets. They had a lot of fight choreography and stuff like that they carried over from the Avenger movies, that they used those assets they had. And I respected that. I think a lot of those grounded fights and I mean, it was kind of dark for a PG-13 movie. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I know it was on the brink of an R, and they cut out a couple scenes just to keep it to a general audience. But
Grizz, I'm going to make a statement, and this is unironic. The Gray Man is a kid's movie. And I've got 5 reasons plus 1 bonus reason why.
Okay,
and
let's go for it.
I'll read it later, because I just want to throw a couple of these other ones out. Tom Stone from the Times UK. Throw the Bourne, Bond, Mission Impossible, and Fast and Furious franchises into a blender, and voila, you might end up with a film like The Gray Man. You'll forget it the moment you stop watching it. Now, again, that's another 3 out of 5 review. I don't think anyone's hating this movie. I don't think anyone's watching this movie going, this is terrible. I think what they're doing is they're going, this is uninspired. This is nothing new. This is here, and it's gonna garner an audience, as we've seen by the box office and also the audience reviews. But it's just not doing anything special. Another one here. All that effort, this is by Robert Levin from Newsday, all that effort and all that money should have paid for a better screenplay. So screenplay involves dialogue, involves pacing, involves those kind of things. I don't think the screenplay was terrible. I don't think the dialogue was terrible.
Very simple. And
none of it took me out of it, but it also didn't do anything special. And I'll say one more thing before I throw it back to you, Nick. When I was talking earlier about if you take a movie and it's like this movie and that movie combined, I think that takes away from it. I could see somebody arguing back, well, what about Mission Impossible 7? There's already been 6 other ones. Why do we need a 7th? Isn't the 7th just a distillation of 5 and 6 and 4? It's like, well, no, that's different because that's a franchise, and I'm not going to rate a Mission Impossible good if it's not doing something special. And I think each Mission Impossible, besides the second one, does something unique. It exists for a reason And that's a different conversation. But I will just, in case anyone was thinking that, like, well, there's really great movies, Brian, that are just combos of other movies. Sure, but they do something special. And I don't think The Gray Man does something special enough to push it into good movie territory.
Yeah. Yep. I can see that.
You're listening to Critical Mess. I'm sitting here with Brian. I'm sitting here with Grizz. We're talking about The Gray Man. We are sponsored tonight by Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey. 90 proof. Bitch.
Nick is only here for the smooth talking
for the bitch
ads.
again.
That's great.
All right, so here's what I think about this. So, obviously, big disparity here. I'm going to throw just one very superficial thing out there in terms of a reason why people really like this movie, or why audiences like this movie, and maybe a reason that critics don't, like a movie as much, is just the idea that, everyone in this movie is, with a couple of small exceptions, just smoking hot, right? Everyone is just a bunch of hot, a bunch of hot people in this movie.
Very much so.
Pause.
Yeah.
That Billy Bob Thornton's role almost went to Brad Pitt, just to throw that in there for your hot people.
Well, then it just would have been too. Then this movie would have just have been called like Inferno, because
you
this
can't
movie
do
would
that.
have just been just too smoking hot. But here's the thing. But well, that's also interesting because both Billy Bob and Brad tied to Angelina, and Billy Bob is he might not be the easiest on the eyes, but he was with Angelina Jolie, so obviously he's just kind of by default hot, right?
He's probably got a lot of confidence.
Yeah, he's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what that was like.
So everyone being smoking hot in a movie, does skew, I think, towards audiences, but also just I think there's something to the fact that this kind of movie just plays more to audiences, right, than critics. Just traditionally, it's big and bombastic, and things explode, and it's very colorful. It plays to just kind of very primal and simple desires. It's not deep. It's really, honestly, the kind of thing I usually like. But I think, Brian, you hit this in these reviews. It just didn't do anything new for me, and just rehashed a lot of kind of old action tropes and ideas, and it just kind of smashed them all together. And it did it in a pretty ultra slick way. I will give it that. But it wasn't very, sharp for me. It wasn't a sharp movie. It didn't try anything new or interesting or cut through the noise in any way for me. But it was very slick. So anyways, those are my thoughts on.
It's like as soon as you had a chance to think about the fact that it wasn't really doing anything, it would quick hit you with a drone shot or hit you with a huge location change.
See, I love that about this movie. I don't know why, but the word slick is definitely a word that I would tie to this for sure. I think it took a lot of those tropes and things from other movies for sure. That's absolutely true. I think what stood out to me just mainly was just the performances by Evans and Gosling. I think they actually did a really well job. I always compare this. I'm comparing to the Red Notice because you mentioned it.
No, I think that's a good comparison.
It is a great comparison. They were very similar films, right at the same time, same budget, same Netflix kind of special. It's very slick. I thought they did it. They probably could have tightened this up a decent amount and made it a lot shorter and made it a lot cleaner. But overall, I thought it was very cleaned up. It was very efficient with their time. Loved the huge giant title screens of Prague, France, whatever. And then the soundtrack I thought was pretty dope too. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it
was good. It was good.
The bombastic
It was fun.
kind of tone for each sign of, and then each song actually matched the location. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I did, and that was cool actually. But the location changes drove me nuts. It was just like, oh my! I was like just settling into Prague here, and
Nick, I'm glad you brought that up.
Boom!
I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm in Sierra Leone. It's like, what is going on?
In the first 62 minutes of this movie, which is less than half of the movie's runtime, in the first 62 minutes of this movie, do you know how many location changes we have? Take a guess.
Can I guess?
Guess.
115.
Oh, well, not quite. 13. That means that we are in a location for 6 minutes at a time for till the midpoint of the movie. We are in Florida, Bangkok, Langley, Baku in Azerbaijan, Monaco, Chiang Mai, Turkey, London, Hong Kong, Vienna, Berlin, Croatia, and finally we hit Prague at the 62-minute mark. And we still have yet to go to Washington, D.C. and Virginia, by the end. So we're in 15 different places in this movie. I mean, and again,
It's obnoxious.
I do love a Jason Bourne or a Mission Impossible. I
globe-trotting
I
adventure.
love globe-trotting.
Yes.
I love it. It makes me happy. But I don't think that this movie shouldn't have done those things. But what I'm saying is, I think it used that mechanism to cover up an empty, I guess, story or an empty
I truly
plot.
think, that's where I think, like I just mentioned, like the efficiencies it could have used. It could have those could have been anywhere. It could have been Ohio. It could have been wherever. It doesn't matter where they were. I think they tried to make it a globe-trotting thing as a ploy to make it more globally acceptable because it's going to Netflix and you want this to go across multiple lanes.
That's an interesting point.
It's very hard not to look at this movie and look at the marketing behind it and how they make movies now, especially for streaming, where they want to make sure that it's not just alienated to one specific audience or region. They have to make it global. They have to make it big and whatever.
So this is what, I'm sorry to cut you off, but just a very quick thing. I was watching an interview with one of the guys from the TV show Workaholics, right, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And this is why their movie got canceled. I don't remember what studio it was, but they basically told them, you do not have appeal beyond, America, and you don't have appeal beyond this very specific demographic. So this is why they shut down the whole production. So it's interesting you say that because you're right. That's what studios look for, that global appeal.
But do you have to go to 6 different locations in the first 22 minutes?
Absolutely
That's right.
not. No, I would
at
agree with that.
That's 6 and 22. So the first 22 of the movie, what's 22 divided by 6? I don't know, 3.75? I mean, that's a couple of minutes, and then we're in a whole different place. Like, it is so ADHD.
I think the only benefit they had with it was they just stuck to the same 2 or 3 characters in all those cuts. They didn't try to throw in another character and another character. They didn't try to throw in one extra person per location. You kept with this main character, Ryan Gosling, and you kept checking in with the secondary villain, Chris Evans. So I think that's the only benefit they had with the skipping, but that's my only argument to that kind of point. I would agree it is a lot of skipping around in the first half.
It might be one of the reasons Peter Rayner from Film Week says it's kind of like watching a movie that's a trailer for itself, because it does, at least in that first 22, the first act, I think the jumping around, So I think I see what you're coming from the global appeal thing, but I think they just went overboard a little bit with it. And a lot of the times you're on this unnecessary drone shot because drones are kind of new. It's such a gimmick. It's kind of like when bullet time became a thing. Well, now from 2020 to it'll probably end in 2 years, 2025, 2026. It's just going to be, we're just going to see these crazy drone shots. That's just some drone operator doing some cool, fancy moves. Michael Bay is going to use it a couple more times, and then they'll be done with it.
Don't ever watch the movie Ambulance if you don't like drone shots.
That's what I was referencing with Michael Bay.
What's the opposite of a drone shot? Like, where are we going to we're going to overcorrect in another? What is it, like a microscope shot?
Oh, macro shots, tight shots.
Yeah, I don't know what the opposite of a drone shot is, but
it's got to be it. Yeah,
this movie had way too many of them for very unnecessary reasons. They were in just like scene changes and just like someone's driving in a car, and so for us to transition scene to get to that car, we do this crazy awesome drone shot, and then it's just these 2 people talking in a car. I'm like, why did we drone to this?
Yeah, so I have a thing about that, and one of the it's a trope that I think is happening now. I think Michael Bay does it like crazy. It's an FPV, or first person view drone is what that's called. So they use these fast flying drones to shoot in and out of locations. And I think it's cool for creatives and, cinematographers to get, interesting shots. But the problem I have with that is I think they did it well in this movie in comparison to a lot of films. I didn't think it was too over the top. It wasn't like so distracting. Now, I will give you credit for the number of cuts. They did cut a lot. I think that just comes natural with fighting scenes. It's just, you have to hide a lot of things, fake cuts, fake punches, all that stuff. But the drone shots, I think, were done well. Where you get really messy is when it doesn't feel natural. Like, if it doesn't feel like the car is driving along another car and there's a camera in that other car shooting the other car, like that's where it's like, oh, now it's flying up and down and around and through the car and around the car. That's where you're like, all right, now I'm watching something that feels animated. Like, it feels unnatural for this to occur with a real camera. I think that's where, you can definitely credit.
Last thing I'll say about the drone shots, I think they're great for establishing locations because it gives you a really quick lay of the land, and so whenever they would show the big location text, you drone up over some sort of like palace and see a city or something like that. That's great. But when it's 2 people walking into a hospital and trying to be covert, and the drone like flies through the open doors and circles around them, and then turns into a Steadicam. That's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the 200 mil came from. I don't know, but man, enough.
I think the 200 mil came from just the sets. I think a lot of these were actually real sets, especially the scene in Prague with
the
bench.
Prague castle and hedge maze was a lot of it.
Yeah, that was amazing. But I think that's that had to have been where the most of the budget was outside of the actors themselves. But
This is Critical Mess, and we're going to move on to another segment. And that segment is the incredibly smartly titled Flip the Script. And there's only going to be one participant tonight, because two of us scored this film within 5 points of 50. So I don't really think it's worth Brian and I flipping the script on this film. But Grizz, you gave this a very healthy, it was an 85, right?
83, I think. Oh, God, I've already forgotten. I didn't even write it down. I think
goodness
it was 83.
gracious. It was
Sorry,
somewhere
guys,
in the
83.
80s. Yeah. Grizz, you like this movie a lot. So flip the script on us. What did you not like about this movie?
I think it was probably the length. I think it could have been cut down a decent amount. I think they could have cut out a little bit of just exposition here and there, and we could have filled in those blanks for a typical spy movie or action thriller. I want to say this movie was probably 2 hours and 20?
2 hours and 9 minutes.
Yeah, I was okay. 2:10.
Was anyone else excited, by the way, when you always are aware of how much time is left in a movie? Was anyone else excited when the credits started, like 15 minutes
This was
from the
one
end?
of my rapid fire points.
Oh, sorry, I'm spoiling.
No. But let's just get into it for a quick second.
I was like, yes, I'm done already.
14 and a half minute credits.
It felt like
Holy shit.
finishing a deliverable really quick, and then you got like an hour back of
It
your
did.
life.
I
All
really
right.
felt like my whole evening got freed up.
I actually
moment.
missed the entire credit scene. So when I'm done watching a Netflix film that's original, or whatever streaming film, I did not watch a single second of this when I first watched it, the end credit scene. And then the second watch, as soon as it came on, I was like, oh, that's cool. They picked the same styling from the opening scene. So you saw Billy Bob Thornton pulling Ryan Gosling out of jail or whatever and saying, hey, you can do this. It was cool how they slightly de-aged both of them and then thinned up Ryan Gosling. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And then he got more muscular as they showed him 20 years later, 18 years later. That kind of continuity was kind of actually respectable. But the opening scene was like this claymation, not claymation. It was like a weird metallic.
It was like this
bronze
it was like a
thing.
metallic.
I didn't like it.
I don't
thought it
know
was
if
odd.
I don't know if I liked it, but I respected the crap,
I
how much
loved it.
effort
They were
they
trying
put
something
into
different.
it.
I thought it was
Yeah,
I thought it was different for sure. I thought it was really cool that they just morphed it into this scene. It felt like old school Bond intros, like the 90s Bond intros that I absolutely love, where they just go into a fucking 15-minute intro of Bond-esque cards flying or guns shooting or whatever. And then the end scene, if you guys didn't notice or watch the whole thing, I watched it this second time around. It's 15 minutes of the movie in reverse. And it goes like so.
Because it ends with the fireworks in Bangkok. Yeah,
it ends with the fireworks. Oh, it's so
Right,
good. I don't
right.
know. I thought that was great.
No, I agree. And
That's smart.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like the whole concept these days of like the pre-roll credits. That's like the really artistically done. Like if you ever watch like the Lego movies, they do a phenomenal job with that
Yeah.
stuff. I know the Marvel movies probably do that stuff, but I don't really watch Marvel movies, so I don't know. But I think I like that because it's just you don't have to do that, but they do it.
Yeah.
And it's neat. It's like it's celebrating the movie, and it gives the
Yep.
music a chance for an overture, which I love. Reprise of the themes.
So, Grizz, you were script flipping.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add there?
I have one if you want to have a chance to think. Since
Yeah.
I was at a 47, I'll just give you one. Give you one that I wrote down. I respect... Okay, do you remember the guy with the big machine gun in the black SUV when they're next to the tram and he's like shooting with the black SUV? I respect the fact that when that black SUV... That's sort of a set piece and it's like its own little villain. When it crashes really violently, I respect the fact that it did not explode. It just crashed. And I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a big-ass explosion. No, it just crashed. And I was like, okay.
They had too much budget to do an explosion.
Yeah. They actually didn't have to cover up a crash
It's funny
with an
that
explosion.
these huge budget movies are actually using like real things again, which is great. We went through this huge massive phase of just full on CG. Like, oh, let's get away with everything. We'll do it in CG and post later. But I love that part.
Grizz, did you think of anything while I was
Nah.
giving you a...
I was just gazing into your eyes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
thank
Brian.
you. You were
Yeah.
too enamored with
The man
mine.
likes the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys, we always like to get into, at least briefly, thematics. This film probably doesn't have the strongest or the deepest of themes. However, I think there may have been a theme or two. And I'll start. I feel like the theme to me was pretty much kill everyone to achieve your goals.
Death is the answer to your problems?
Don't fuck with the best special agents. Am I dancing around something here, or am I off?
Well, I had corrupt people get what's coming to them. Which maybe is the other side of the coin.
It is the other side of the coin of kill everyone to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need two pieces or two, working together to
Yeah.
create that puzzle. So, yeah, we're
Okay.
dancing around the same thing.
I had one other theme. Not repeating the mistakes of your parents. I think it was a little bit more of a subtle theme, but I think 6, it harkens back to the way his dad treated him very abusively. Matter of fact, which is what kind of sets up and leads him to sort of valiantly be this criminal. And I think that he treats the girl, Fitzroy's niece, as good as he does because he doesn't want to make the mistakes of his father. I could be
Correct.
grasping at
Yeah.
straws there.
No,
But I like that
there's
theme.
something there.
I
Yeah.
like that theme.
I had the exact
Yeah.
same thing written down for the whole
Oh,
father,
sweet.
daughter, son thing. And second watch now, I caught at the beginning scene when he's getting taken out of jail by Billy Bob Thornton. He goes, and Billy Bob was like, "You're going to need to dig deep for whatever got you to this point in your life to solve your problems." And so at the end scene is him getting drowned by Lloyd, or Chris Evans' character, and he's got him under the water, and then it cuts back to his father trying to drown him as a kid. And so I think that's interesting that they pulled that throughout the theme, but I don't know if it's just a simple revenge or a weird revenge story, I guess, to get.
I think it's a theme.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what it is.
And again, action movies like this don't necessarily... They can have very strong themes, but they don't necessarily shine via their themes necessarily. It's a lot of times it's plot, it's twists, it's just eye candy in action. So I did not fault the movie because it didn't have strong themes.
Yeah, and if I have to quote Lloyd here, if you want to make an omelet, you got to kill some people.
Oh God, I had that written
So,
down in my dialogue.
It's pretty good.
No, that's terrible. I hate
So
that
bad.
line. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Now, the fact that Chris Evans said it and that character said it,
I think that's
was
why I
what
got
makes
away
it
with
good.
it. I don't know why. Yeah, it just feels.
He's
like,
the only one that can get away with saying that
Guys,
terrible
we're
line.
almost to the part where we get to talk about Chris Evans.
Okay, I can't wait.
All right,
we're
we're
getting
getting there.
really close.
Okay, sorry.
We're getting really close because obviously that's a topic that needs to be discussed. But before we do, I also want to briefly discuss character arcs. We got to talk character arcs. Were there any in this film? Brian, you're kind of the character arc specialist. I guess I'll throw that to you.
So, I kind of created some categories before I started watching the movie that I wanted to talk about. I had dialogue, with space to write about that. Performances, space to write about that. Craft, tone, theme, and character arcs. And I filled in data for all of the points except for character arcs. I never could come up with something to put there. Everyone except for maybe the lone wolf. You could say the lone wolf somewhat had an arc, but not really, because he didn't really change. He just realized that somebody was corrupt, and so I wouldn't even say that. So guys, I don't know. Are there any character arcs in this movie? I didn't see any.
Well, there's the main agent, female. I can't remember her character's name, but
She is. I see.
you know what I'm talking about.
Anna de Armas.
Her big arc was she was with the agency, and then at the end she realized, oh, maybe not everybody is who I think it is, or is out to do the same thing I'm out here to do.
Miranda.
Yeah. The other arc is just the simple Ryan Gosling part where he's in this to get the hell out of jail, and then he's trying to do something right. I don't know. It's very difficult.
I'm gonna
I
push-
think he realized there's a gray area to everything.
Well-
gray man, whatever. But I think he's just realized that there's a gray area to everything. But
I'm going to push back a little bit there because I'm going to ask a little bit more on that because I don't see an arc for him. I see he's already a sort of a noble guy because he's in jail because he stood up for his brother who was getting abused. He stood up for his brother, killed his dad, went to jail, right? So he's already
Yeah, he was
like
always
this sort of
righteous.
righteous guy, and now he still is. So I'm not seeing much there. And then Miranda, I'm sorry, I had a note here. Why was Miranda in this movie?
That's one of those things where I'm like, you can be more efficient with this film and cut out maybe
She-
2 or
she's
3
Not a
characters.
strong character.
If
Yeah,
you
no.
removed her from the movie, I mean, I'd be sad because she's easy on the eyes, but also I have a lot of problems with her character. So I won't go into those now because we're trying to talk about character arcs, but
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any.
Does a movie need a character arc?
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
Agree.
Interesting.
All right, where were we? Arcs? Character arcs? There are none. Moving on.
Next.
Next, we're going to move to a special place, a wholesome, quaint place, a place that just feels like home,
It's my favorite place.
and that place is called Brian's Corner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Brian's Corner. Special little segment of the podcast where I get to run my mouth. This week's edition is called Not Buying It. And I'm going to list off a couple of things in this movie that I didn't buy. And I just want to get a quick... Consider this a spiritual successor to the now R.I.P. defunct rapid fire section.
And if we had to visually look at Brian's Corner, it's very similar to an old video store where they had the corner in the back with the curtain.
Oh, yeah.
And the adults
wait,
were
no, it's
allowed-
not
Yeah,
the adult.
well,
It's not the adult section.
Yeah, no, what I do. And there's a scuzz bucket back there.
No.
Right?
No, that's Nick's corner. This is Brian's corner.
That is not my corner, sir.
This is like Vincent's
My
picks
corner
on
has
Seinfeld.
dignity. My corner is full of artwork and gold and wholesome things.
Your corner's extravagant.
Bibles.
Well, let's talk
All the-
about my corner
yes.
because this is my corner. Damn it! All right, I'm going to say these are things I didn't buy about the movie, and I just want to get a quick take on each of you. Are you buying it or are you selling it?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm not buying that those agents would go to war with the entire police force of Prague. Do you know how much heat that would bring? Just send in a sniper and do it covertly. And when I say do it, I mean take out 6.
I'll sell it.
Yeah. Yep.
You selling it?
Yep.
Are we supposed to believe there's an entire mercenary army in every city in the world just ready to go? Where did this army in Prague come from so quickly? I'm not buying it.
I buy it. People are ready to roll.
Yes. In the smallest of towns, there are still a SWAT team.
Once more on the Prague police segment. I'm not buying how many times a squadron of Prague police get completely owned by one solitary, unarmed dude. It got to the point where it was just completely predictable.
Yeah,
You-
I'll sell that. That's. I mean, they're not. I mean, Prague police. I'm sure they're somewhat competent.
I mean, how many times were there like 5 guys aiming a gun at a dude who's got his hands up and he's like, I'm unarmed, but he's like advancing on them and they're all just not shooting. He's like, I'm unarmed, and then he like whoops all 5 of their asses.
I do not know when the Prague police became the Keystone Cops, but they did.
I'm sorry, Prague.
Sorry, Prague.
On behalf of fucking Joe and Anthony Russo.
Sell it.
Grizz?
Sell it.
Okay. No more on Prague police. When 6 head stomps Lloyd's head into the stone flower pot, he would at the very least be unconscious, if not dead.
That was awesome. I'm sorry.
It was a great-
That last fight scene was fantastic.
I love
and
that
the only
scene.
reason it was great was because the weight between the two and the hate and how they had met each other once or twice, I think, in the film, like in face to face. And then they get to that point and they just beat the living shit out of each other.
Yeah, the first time they met, they both got tranquilized or whatever.
Yeah, or he
Yeah.
gets shot in the butt and he falls over. Yeah.
Do you remember that scene, Nick? It's like it was a really cool
Yeah,
of course
backlit
he does.
scene, and it was. And I went back and rewound that like 4 or 5 times. That was a baller, like head stomp. But like that's instant death.
And it
this
was
is
a knee,
this
it was
one's
a
a little
knee kick to his
nitpicky.
head into the concrete. Yeah, it was great.
Nick,
I'll buy it.
Okay.
I think Lloyd had a thick head.
Yeah,
that
buy
mustache
it.
probably blocked some of the blow.
I'd buy it. They're both hard
Yeah.
asses.
Okay, I've got 2 more. During the last fight, 6 gets... You ready for this? Okay, I meticulously went back frame for frame and watched. 6 gets sliced in the thigh, deeply stabbed in the upper back, sliced twice on his left arm, deeply stabbed in the left upper leg, left torso, and right upper back, a 1-2-3 stab, and then shot in the right thigh. Meanwhile, Lloyd gets shot once in the torso and immediately dies. I'm not buying that 6 is just fine and that chick knows he's going to live.
I'll buy it. I think he's toughest guy on Earth.
Okay.
Yeah, I buy it as well, just for the fact that he's a hard ass. And the scene where he's taking his shirt off and cleaning up inside that the cleaner's house or whatever, he's trying to get cleaned up, and he's like takes his shirt off. Did you see the number of bullet holes and cuts and fucking gnarly scars down his tricep?
Can I bring something up
So
about
good.
that? This was going to be a rapid fire thing,
Yeah.
but first of all, he's cleaning up at the cleaners, and the cleaner tells him to clean up, and then we see him cleaning.
It was so good. If
I'm
you
just
didn't
like-
catch on to how funny that was,
Could
come
we
on.
at least skip over washing him? I get the reason was to show his hot
Physique.
bod and,
his physique.
and his scars and whatnot, and I get that. But it's just like, when
There
someone
was-
tells you to go clean yourself up, if there's nothing more happening in the scene than just cleaning yourself, we can probably skip to the next scene.
No, we had to see that because it was early enough in the movie that you had to see how far he's gone in 18 years of beating the hell out of his body. I don't know. I thought it was cool.
All right, I can't believe you guys bought that one
Bought
because
it.
somebody would completely die and bleed out if they were stabbed that
No,
many
hey,
times.
all right. So there is a God. What is that freaking show called? MythBusters, where they talked about how many shots or things could happen to the human body before it completely fatally. There's only a few spots that are fatal: head, heart, lungs, stuff like that. And then there are a multitude of things: limbs, arms, legs, most of your stomach, things like that, are slow deaths rather than speedy deaths, like a heart. And then Lloyd gets shot just underneath the heart. So, and she had time to aim and shoot as he's standing right in front of her.
You know what? I'll concede that one. That's a great point.
Yes, I'll take that as a win.
All right, my last one. Do you guys buy Ana de Armas handling herself against multiple trained military operatives? Here's an example. I'll say I'm not saying that she's not elite trained, that she doesn't know how to take somebody down. The movie's selling that, and I'm buying that. Okay, but cast your mind back to 1981. Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones, fighting a huge bald dude by a plane. Okay, do you remember how that fight goes and those type of fights go? Whenever it's a guy versus like 2 times the size guy,
They got to get creative.
he hits him and it doesn't even rattle the guy,
Yeah.
right? And it's not because the guy hitting, i.e. Indiana Jones, isn't good at fighting. It's because physics. You can if you're 200 pounds, you can't just cold lock a 400-pound dude and knock him out, right? I think movies like Red Notice with Gal Gadot and Ana de Armas and so many other ones, every movie Angelina Jolie's ever been in, you've got this frail little 115-pound little beauty just like one-shotting at all these like dudes that are like 3 times their size.
Yeah,
I know that's a tirade I just went on. I apologize, but what do you guys think about that? There's something to be said about just the sheer like physics of it. So I said all that, and I'm ready to go.
Right.
I think that's sold. I'm selling everything about that character.
Okay, we're on the same page then.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me in Brian's Corner. Next time, I'll run my mouth about some other bullshit.
And we can't wait.
I can't wait either.
I'm excited.
I really want to know what Nick's Corner's like too, with a gold extravagance.
Well,
Boy,
it's
that
just kind
corner
of, it's
sounds
gold
great.
plated. I mean, there's some nice things going on in my corner. So
Okay.
we'll get to my corner.
I look
someday.
forward to Nick's Corner.
Yeah. This is Critical Mess. I'm here with Brian and Grizz. We're talking about The Gray Man. We are sponsored tonight by Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey. We love it.
So good.
So good. 90 proof. Fucker.
Damn, I was going to say bitch at the same time as you, but you didn't say bitch.
Sorry, I had to switch it up. Because, Woodinville switches things up. That's what they do. That's how they stay at the leading edge of the bourbon game.
And thank you guys. We're definitely I'm gonna have to push that little toggle that says explicit now, because I feel like we've said shit, fuck, and damn, and shit, and crap many of times in this episode.
I think the
Other
third
episodes.
sentence of our podcast was Nick saying, "We decided to do a podcast. Fuck it, let's do it."
Yeah, I think I don't think this is our most profane podcast.
We've been
I look
explicit out
at
the
it-
gate.
I look at
Yeah.
it like PG-13 versus R, and I think, okay, was that rated PG-13, or can we push it to R? Do I need to hit that explicit tab? But nice work there.
I mean, we'll keep it explicit. Don't you worry about that.
All right, what's after Brian's Corner? I can't wait.
After Brian's Corner, we're going to move on to probably what I guess I would probably call our most legendary segment. Our
Infamous.
most, infamous, but also famous.
True.
And epic. And I think well-respected, but also kind of dark and mysterious. And that segment is called... Well, actually, what is it called?
It's called Slow Burn, and
Is
it's
it?
never been anything but.
Mm.
No. It's rapid fire.
Rapid Fire.
Rapid Fire.
It's also been known as Medium Fire, Crossfire.
Crossfire.
Grizz saying Crossfire last time.
So good.
Yeah, various different monikers for this segment. But
Let's try to keep it at rapid fire. Let's try to boom, 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 hit it, bam.
Slow burn it is. Let's
yeah,
go.
there's gonna be some rapid firing. There's gonna be some slow burning. We're just gonna get right into it here, gentlemen. So I think the first thing, obviously, it's been on the tip of our tongues all night. We've all just been just fiending to talk about Mr. Evans and his performance in this film, which was notable in so many ways. And
Mustache.
let's start with the mustache. Rapid fire / slow burn. How did we feel about the mustache?
Furthermore, who had the better mustache, Fitzroy or Lloyd?
Oh, Lloyd.
Well, Lloyd, yeah.
even get
Billy
at me
Bob
with
was
Fitz.
rocking an awesome handlebar.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
nice, but it was more of a goatee because he had the bottom part too.
Yeah,
So
but
he had the
it was
full-
a separate white mustache
Yeah.
above and beyond the
It
beard.
was nice.
I liked the mustache.
Yeah, I got to go with Lloyd on that mustache.
I really liked the mustache. I think it definitely gave him extra hit points. No doubt about that. I liked that they called it a trash stash as well. Did Gosling call it a trash stash? I can't remember. I think he maybe did. Someone did.
There were a couple good digs.
the digs
when he
between
said
these
you
two-
when he said you have an $8 haircut to 6, that was
Yes.
pretty good.
That's a famous thing that Ryan Gosling people get all the time because his haircut is very awkward. But I love that I feel like they were personal. Like they were actually going after Ryan Gosling himself and Chris Evans. They just learned things about themselves and then just knocked it for
But
it.
I think it
love
was 6 who said the trash dash to
Yeah,
Lloyd.
it's great.
And let's dissect Mr. Evans' performance a little bit more here. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it, guys. I wasn't really buying it, but I had a lot of fun with it. He's Captain America, man. I just had a hard time getting over that. I don't even really like the superhero movies and the Marvel movies, but I really do identify him as Captain America most strongly, and I really had a hard time seeing Captain America being such a sort of a sadist, I guess, and such a bad person, and I was just kind of cognitive dissonance there.
What was the first movie you saw Chris Evans in?
Not another teen movie.
Same.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
he was sort of this somewhat skeezy but hilarious heartthrob guy, right?
It's hard
Yeah.
because he was Captain America for 10 years, and I personally think Captain America: First Avenger was in my top 3 of the Marvel cinematic movies, I guess. And it's hard to not see him in that role.
Guys, I love Chris Evans as the villain so much more.
But I like
in,
him a lot more as a villain.
in Scott Pilgrim. He is such a good villain boyfriend.
Never
in-
seen it.
In oh, you
See, I
got
haven't seen
I
that
know.
either. Okay,
Oh,
so
you
I
guys.
didn't know
Okay.
there was precedent with him being
You guys
a villain.
got to check out Scott Pilgrim. There's so
Okay.
many great villains in that movie, but
All right.
he's one of the best.
I've seen clips from it. He's a real piece of shit, so it's awesome.
Knives Out. He's a great villain in Knives Out. He sort of makes that
I
movie.
forgot about that. Yeah, I guess
Knives Out, I don't-
he's kind of the villain. I
again
guess.
with Ana de Armas, and then
Yeah.
in this movie,
Yeah.
the villain. So
Okay.
I am more intrigued with him as the villain. I'm just going to say that.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was intriguing and it held my attention, but there's something about it. It was kind of like a little uncanny. You know what I mean? Like
I don't
something
know.
was just a little
Didn't,
off.
didn't you love during the last fight when he went and he took a break and he sat down and dumped the rocks out of his shoe and put them back on and went back to the
Oh,
fight?
his
I mean, that
loafers?
is
Yeah,
that is
that was
great.
fun.
No, the better part was like when he falls in the water for the first time and it hits the
Oh, that
burn mark.
stings!
He's like,
Oh.
"Ooh, da, da."
Yeah.
He's like running around. Oh, it's so good. I loved it.
I can see how you wouldn't buy him, especially if you're used to him being the hero. But in like Snowpiercer, he's a great hero in that. He's very much a hero or villain. You know, he's not a side character.
Yeah, he's
So.
yeah.
Good for him for
I'd love to see a
playing
side
both.
movie, a second movie with just him.
because I know this is rapid fire, but it's slow burn now.
We had
real
to
quick,
get
real
into
quick.
this.
Well, at least we tried. What other Hollywood Chris can walk that line and do both? I don't think any of them can, of the 4 Hollywood Chris's. And if we need to review the 4 Hollywood Chris's, they are Chris Evans, Chris Pine, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth. Name another Chris who can do the hero and the villain besides Chris Evans.
Because Chris Pine seems like he's done a villain sometime, but I can't think of what it would have been. So
I
maybe
feel like
I'm making
he's
that
the
up.
closest chance you have is
What-
Chris
what-
Pine.
He was you want to say the bad guy in Hell and High Water with Ben Foster?
That's kind of maybe what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
He was kind of like kind of just a
Chris-
bad influence.
okay.
Chris Pratt has it in his contract.
He can
He
do both.
can't be a bad guy in any
Yeah,
way, shape, or form.
for sure.
So no
yeah,
chance he's going to do it.
and man, that's a great movie, by the way.
Which one?
Hell or High Water.
Oh yeah, Tommy Lee
Absolutely.
Jones.
That gets
Josh
a little
Brolin.
bit. I feel like that
Beautiful.
movie doesn't get enough love. That's
Yeah.
like that's like top 3 movie that year.
What
probably.
a great cast.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
Insane
Sorry
year.
to make that rapid fire into slow burn, but I had a lot pent up inside me for Chris Evans,
Yeah.
We all
and
do.
I had to
we
get
all?
it out.
We all do.
All right, rapid fire. Here we go. So I want to call out one scene in particular that I thought was really cool. I thought it was probably the coolest action sequence in the movie, and I don't think it was probably intended to be the biggest. Maybe it was. I don't know. It was a pretty big scene, but it was the one where the plane was blowing up in the middle of the sky, and it was like Gosling was kind of like beating guys up as the plane was going down and kicking them out the door. And you know exactly. And I don't know if you guys had a Nintendo growing up,
Oh yeah.
but did you guys by any chance have Double Dragon 2?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that scene was a level in Double Dragon 2 where there's a helicopter and an open door, and you're like, and the helicopter's flying, and you're like kicking people out the door as the helicopter flies through the air as you're
great
just beating them up.
reference.
So
Oh my
that
God.
it was literally that level from Double Dragon 2, and I was like, that is so fucking cool. And it actually the way they just kind of filmed it and the way the plane sort of disintegrated incrementally like around him and the way that kind of all just transpired, it was a really cool action sequence.
Fully agree. And I had remember when you said that Grizz was the only one allowed to do flip the script? Well, had I been included in that, my other flip the script was written down right here. The plane crash sequence was well done.
Yeah, I think the practical effects overall were really great. I don't know. There were only a couple.
Well,
of
those
CG
were practical.
Yeah, those are
those were
practical.
very
No,
CGI.
I know, but the fact that he's in that and he's rolling around, like I think they had a physical set that
You're
he's
right.
rolling
They
around
started.
in.
It started out practical.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think they mixed in enough of it that it felt real enough. That's the hard part about mixing it in.
Yeah, for sure. One line of dialogue. Don't say preternatural to me. That's an asshole word.
It's funny because when he said that, it hit me, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a big word for this movie." And
I know
of
that
course
was
they called it out.
That was an interesting word.
Is
And
it funny
an
that
interesting
whenever
scene.
those moments happened, there's like a line or a thing that happened, and then they immediately call it out right after, like, we are going to call us on our own shit before you do.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, it's good. That's good writing.
Okay, rapid fire. So this has just made me think of this, but the scene where Gosling gets kind of trapped by the cleaner guy down in the well. I mean, how Buffalo Bill was that? I thought he was going to say,
so creepy.
the lotion makes the, what's the line about the lotion?
He puts the lotion on the skin.
puts
I don't
something
remember,
about
but
the-
I have strong thoughts about that pit.
Okay, please.
Let's hear it.
Divulge.
So,
Slow
how
burn.
many passport bootleggers have a trap door to a cobblestone dungeon? And what are the chances that 6 would happen to find one? And why does it have a giant city water main in it? And how in the hell does 6 MacGyver a pipe bomb in there? And wouldn't his captor come check on him at least once, especially with millions of dollars riding on the fact that he's captured? And finally, how did he know the bomb, which was strong enough to blow away the bulletproof glass, wasn't going to hurt him at all? A lot of problems with that pit.
You are just no fun, are you? Jeez.
Absolutely
I'm not.
zero fun.
I'm a fucking curmudgeon.
Go watch any Bond movie or Die Hard
I'll take my
movie
Woodenville
or-
and go home.
I mean, that was so silly of a scene, but I thought it was great.
I
don't
say
know.
all that, but I like that was in there, and I remember that was one of the most memorable scenes from the first time I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, there's going to be the pit. So my heart loves it, my head doesn't.
Yeah, that's a hard thing for me to watch this movie, and in any movie, any action, especially recent action films, is how much of your head gets in the way of just enjoying a film. And I think that's one of the hardest things about being a critic of a film, especially for all three of us now, is how far do we take that?
Well, that's where the enjoyability rating versus the critical rating comes
Yes.
in, and you know.
Yeah.
But I almost put the cobblestone pit in Brian's corner, but I felt like Brian's corner was getting a little cluttered with decor, so I had to take it out of Brian's
Yeah.
corner.
Smart.
Couple lines of rapid fire dialogue. Because I got shot in the ass, Suzanne.
So good.
That was a great line.
Yeah, I actually like that
I
line.
love it a lot.
I thought that was
As
that
he's
was
walking
Lloyd's
away in his
maybe
white
his best
outfit.
line. And
Because
just
he's
limping a little bit.
answering how'd you know there was another person there, and he's like, I can't shoot myself in the ass. So yeah, it's a good line.
Good stuff. Another one. I can't believe. Did we get a Babe reference in this movie?
We do, and I had that written down.
Yes.
We
did.
just talked about Babe.
We did.
What, last episode or 2 ago?
Yeah, right.
And now all of a sudden, that'll do, pig, that'll do. We were just saying, I think I quoted that line.
Yeah. last episode. Yeah.
The fingernail scene. How do we feel? That felt like for PG-13. I was like, okay.
That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about, guys. There were some legitimate deaths and hits and death scenes and kill scenes that I felt like it could have pushed this just barely to an R. And I don't know. They could have gone way darker with this and just thrown it to the R setting and been like, fuck it, let's go.
I'm still going to prove to you that it's a kids movie in about 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
Can I give you another rapid fire dialogue?
Yeah, please.
Extra $10 million to the first guy to put a bullet in this Ken doll's brain. Good line, and I brought that.
Did he
brought
actually
that
call
up.
him a Ken doll?
He called him a Ken
Oh,
doll.
I didn't realize that.
I watched it with
Wow.
subtitles.
Wow.
And that's awesome foreshadowing because Ryan Gosling literally is playing Ken in Barbie that's in theaters right now.
And
so, kinda
fun
cool.
fact, Barbie is a brilliant film. I loved it. I'm probably going to go see it again. But he got that role while filming this, and that is
cool.
the reason they threw that little scene in there.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, funny.
So it is tied
So,
together.
A full-blown on the
can see
cuff,
that.
off the cuff thing that
Meta
Chris Evans,
connection.
No, a lot of those are because of them personally. So the $8 haircut is also a thing because Ryan Gosling has $8.
Well, that's what I
haircuts.
meant by meta. Like it's
Yes.
like a
I
outside
love
of the
it.
movie.
I think that's great. I love
Yeah.
that part about
I agree.
One more quote I loved was, "A lot of blood, lot of blood."
He's slowly dying from his 8
So
stab
that felt
wounds.
like a great Die Hard line where Bruce Willis is just laying there bleeding to death after an entire day of action.
Yeah.
I've got 3 rapid fires, so I'll say one of them now. What's up with location font size these days? Do you feel like every movie's trying to outdo the movie before it?
It's 700 point or nothing.
Pretty
at this
soon
time.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's just going to be one word. London.
One letter.
So I have
Fucking London.
It's going to be L and half of an O.
yeah. Because this movie was such a globe-trotting experience, I think it feels okay to me, but it's the Russos that started this with the Avenger movies. They Endgame and something. What was the Infinity War? They did that with those movies at every location.
I don't. So I don't think they started it, but that's not a bad
They
thing.
made it
I actually
famous, if you
like
will.
the stylistic
Yeah.
nature of that, but I'm just kind of pointing it out. Like there's so many other movies that it's like you don't show the little. Remember in the '90s? There'd always be like the like kind of the
The spy
typewriter
thrillers,
of like
yeah.
where we're at, like
Yeah.
middle of the Russian Sea, like in the bottom left corner,
Yeah.
real tiny. And now it's like Russia. It's just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just sign of the
Hilarious.
times.
That is,
Anyway,
that's funny.
rapid fire for you.
That's funny. There it is. Slow burn, baby. All right. This is just a quick observation I had. I could have made this movie an extra $1 billion by just changing the title. If we would have just called this Call of Duty the movie, I feel like it's an extra $1 billion on this movie. And I feel like this movie really did. I play a lot of Call of Duty, and especially the action sequences, I just felt like I was playing some Call of Duty.
Especially like in Prague, like in the street.
Yeah,
scenes
right.
and stuff.
Exactly.
And
So
it's at Prague in the castle
plane.
too.
Yeah.
The
There's
plane,
actually
the
a
castle,
there's
the
actually
maze.
there's a war
Yeah.
zone level right now in the Netherlands that is like it give me vibes of this movie. So I just
Give me GoldenEye maps.
pay the extra $500 million for the license, slap Call of Duty on it, man, and then you got yourself an extra $500 million. You heard it here first.
I probably wouldn't have watched it, but
I'll take a 10%
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah, that takes me out if it's got a big old commercial name on it. But
here's a really esoteric rapid fire for you. So I just watched The Negotiator again. Hadn't seen it in a long time. I really like that movie.
I do too.
A lot, and it holds up. Here's my rapid fire: snipers with toothpicks. Snipers with toothpicks. Palermo in The Negotiator, he's a sniper. He's got a toothpick. Six in The Gray Man, he's a sniper with a toothpick. Just planting that in your brain. You'll see a sniper. They got a toothpick. I guess it's like a little.
It's sniper flare.
It's sniper flare.
Yeah, and I think the only way you're going to beat that is with maybe a cigarette. But I think
the smoke gets in your eye when you're trying to squint and look through the scope.
Yeah, if you're a fucking amateur.
True, you got me there.
But yeah, no, the toothpick is super cool. Yeah,
It was just funny because I,
think
watched
it's very
them.
cool.
I watched them back to back, like literally one movie then the other movie, and they both had a sniper with a toothpick.
never seen The Negotiator, but I can see a lot of callbacks because the Russos are in.
Oh,
there.
you haven't seen The Negotiator?
No, I've never seen it, but I can see how the
Do you
Russos.
see this poster right here?
Mm-hmm.
The director of that directed The Negotiator.
He's
I'm
looking at
I'm pointing at Friday, by the way.
Yeah,
An
he's looking at
amazing
a-
poster of Friday on Nick's mantle.
local Bigger Picture show, right? Bigger Picture show poster
Yep.
of Friday.
My last rapid fire: the bathroom where Denny and the woman have the conversation about evidence was the darkest bathroom I've ever seen. There wasn't any lights on in that bathroom.
Oh, funny. Yeah. I kind of did notice that. That's a funny observation. Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't want you to see that gross floor.
What else you got, Nick? I'm done. I'm out with rapid fires.
Well, actually, I want to toss it back to you real quick because I do want to get to your why this is a children's film. You have 5 reasons, is that right?
I have 5 reasons.
All right, let's hit those.
So this was in my tone section. I was like, "What's the tone of this movie?" Right? Grizz, you and I were talking earlier.
And can I ask, when you say a children's film, are you talking about like 4, or maybe like
Yeah, what is a child?
12?
I'm somewhat ironically calling it a kids movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which you would probably knee-jerk reaction say this is a kids movie, but I was kind of saying it's not. In response to that, when I watched this movie, it's a kids movie dressed up as a teenage boys movie, I think. I'm not saying that children should be allowed to watch the movie, but I'm saying it's made content-wise, structure-wise for kids.
For simpletons.
For simpleton. Well, no, I
Just
don't want to
kidding.
say that because I did enjoy the movie.
Kind of what you're saying, though.
No. Okay.
Well, we're all simple in our own ways.
I think my 5 reasons will explain why.
Yes, please.
Number 1, location change every 7 minutes to keep the kids' attention. I think what that does is that keeps your attention. And somebody said, or one critic said, this is the ultimate dad ironing or folding laundry, watching in the background movie. I mean, it's
Perfect
it's for
review, yeah.
It's not for somebody who's really analyzing this movie. It's just like, oh, here we are in a new location, so now I'm still intrigued. Number 2, it centers around a good guy versus bad guy, fighting, chasing each other the whole time, with the good guy winning ultimate showdown at the end. That's a very kids trope-ish thing to do. You've got a good guy, bad guy. It's very clear who they are, and the good guy wins. And they're chasing each other the whole time. Number 3, lots of shiny eye candy. The drone camera movements we talked about. There's big guns. There's over-the-top Prague castle and hedge maze in this movie. We've got a hedge maze in this movie, Nick. The fun record music playing during the fights, where it's like this kind of juxtaposition of this crazy fight, but then this old school kind of record playing that's like this happy-go-lucky music. Kind of, I don't know, just way too polished for me. Number 4, there's lots of silly one-liners and yelling. Very simple, just like direct in your face. Someone kill this guy. How is no one hitting this guy who's handcuffed to this bench? Just very direct dialogue. Very simple. My 7-year-old could understand everything that was said in this movie except the word preternatural, which was then probably explained to him by the movie itself. Number 5, the lack of complexity, nuance, or character depth. We hit on that with character arcs. And then my bonus was this movie has a witty kid who outtalks the big dumb adults. Take all those together, and to me, you've got on paper, if you didn't see the sort of, like you were saying, Grizz, the very violent scenes in it, you'd say, oh, that's a kid's movie. Is that Spy Kids 3? No, it's The Gray Man.
I wouldn't go that far, but I truly think this film probably would have benefited if they had pushed it to an R and just went for it. I truly think they would have
I agree with you on that.
More views, more respect, more everything. If they
I don't think it would have made as much money.
No, absolutely not. I do
Yeah.
not believe that. That's the classic, debate.
It would have been a better movie. You're right.
I think it would have been a better movie.
And I think that's what takes away from the movie is,
Yeah.
we can make more money if we just neuter it.
I think that was Netflix saying, yeah, we'll grab you, Russo brothers, right after you get done with Marvel. You come on in, and we'll give you a bunch of money, and you come out and make us a global box office franchise. And that was the plan from the beginning, was franchise. And I'm sure they'll make another one, but how they do that, I don't know. But
and I'll watch it.
Yeah, I will too, yeah.
So I got 2 more rapid fires here, or 2 more slow burns.
Smoldering,
we are
smoldering
just
burns
smoldering
at this point.
tonight.
Just smoking.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about, quickly the ending. I just kind of had a problem with the ending. I thought it ended weirdly, abruptly. I felt there were some things that didn't quite get resolved, like with the kind of the bad guy. I guess he kind of got screwed because the little drive he had that all the incriminating information about him was, captured or whatever. I just didn't feel like it paid off very well, and I feel like they just tried to jam a bunch of shit from earlier into the movie, or excuse me, from earlier in the movie into the end of the movie to kind of like make it like profound and poignant when it wasn't. And I mean like the gum chewing thing. Remember, the girl was
Can
like,
I chew gum in here?
And he's like, yeah, can I chew gum in here? And like the song, the Silverbird song, you know, from the beginning, and they just kind of tried to tie it back in like kind of a ham-fisted way. And I wasn't buying the ending, and I didn't think it was good. What did you guys think?
I liked the ending. I didn't have any problem with it.
Yeah, it was a little heavy-handed, I think, with those callbacks, but I think they were done well enough that I'd agree with all of it.
Well, here's the other thing. Did he? Man, maybe I just wasn't clear on this. Didn't he kind of like kill a bunch of innocent people in the very end? There, basically, he murdered a bunch of like as far as we know, upstanding, normal citizens. They were just watching after that girl.
I literally just realized that. You're right.
What do you mean? I mean, she was in a compound somewhere?
In protection, and he just comes and like... Well, I guess she wasn't really happy there, but they weren't evil people.
She was being held captive by what?
Murdered some guy. I mean...
Well, she wasn't being held captive. She was being protected.
Right.
And all of the protectors... Remember, he's like... She opens a thing and it's like play this loud. So she covers her ears and plays the record, and you see the silhouette outside of the window, and a bunch of people die, and then he walks in and he's like, "Can I chew gum in here?"
But that's the whole turning point of that Miranda, whatever her name was. I can't remember what you said, but like that's her
Miranda, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's her character sitting there being like, we need to continue that. We need to hold her hostage and make sure he stays out of it.
And we have names wrong. Miranda was Anna de Armas.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I don't know the name of the girl you're talking about, but maybe you're onto something there. Maybe I missed something with that. But yeah, you're right, Nick. He murdered a bunch of people.
Like probably like Officer Dave at the CIA doesn't get to go home to his wife and kids tonight because of Gosling's selfish, whimsical murder spree.
So I don't like that, but I do like sort of the callback to the gum and the callback to the song. It was a little cathartic to me, but it's now just been ruined. It's been spoiled by you.
I don't know. I can't.
Rightly so.
It's just a dirty ass system, I guess. I don't know. What are you supposed to learn from that? Which one's the good guy? The CIA or? And that
I don't know.
I don't know.
It just seemed innocent to me. But anyway, okay. So the last thing I wanted to bring up as part of rapid fire / slow burn is by far the most important thing we've discussed so far tonight and with this movie. And so let's get into that. And that is the whole idea or the notion of in the final fight scene with Evans and Gosling going at it, Evans in very epic fashion pulls out a butterfly knife.
I thought of you right away, Nick.
Butterfly knife.
I immediately text you.
Which should... to the people who are in the butterfly knife hobby, which is a very strange thing, I get that, but it's a strange hobby I have. I collect butterfly knives. I like flipping butterfly knives.
I can see at least 7 right now as I sit here on Nick's couch
in the room with us right now. And actually, it's making me a little sick calling them butterfly knives. They're called balisongs. Is what us elitists in the community.
I was shocked that you actually referred to them as butterfly knives.
I know, because no one knows what the fuck a balisong is. That's the thing. No one knows what balisong means. So so we call them butterfly knives. But anyways, super badass, and honestly brought this film up at least, I'm going to say, a good 7 or 8 points for me. That we included a balisong so prominently. And I just want to say the line that Chris Evans says when he I would say adroitly pulls out the balisong. He does what we would call a standard opening with the balisong. He does it fairly well. It's not a very difficult move. It might take you an hour to get down, but he does it pretty well. And he says, "Let's see if these moves fuck."
Yeah, he said that.
And I think
what does that mean?
I think it means he's pulling out a balisong and he's going to do some moves with it, and he's going to see if those moves fuck. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say those moves did fuck.
They did. He stabbed him a few times.
Well, we went through how many times those moves sliced and stabbed, didn't we?
Yeah, they fucked hard, and I think that he actually did a couple other tricks with the balisong.
I noticed one time where he kind of did the first stab and he kind of came back and he sort of flipped. He flipped it into an inward stance.
He did. He did like a quick switch to flip the knife over, and he also did a kind of a beautiful aerial from one hand to the other hand.
That was really cool.
Which is a really nice move. So Chris, really appreciate you getting the balisong in there, buddy. And I would say ballad songs have a kind of an interesting and long history in cinema, if you're unaware of this. And there's actually a great YouTube montage. If you got a couple minutes, just type in movies ballad song or something, and it'll come up, I'm sure. That kind of shows a lot of the movies that have featured a ballad song. But just a couple of examples of movies that prominently feature a ballad song. Face Off, if you can remember, John Travolta gives a ballad song to his daughter and ends up getting stabbed with said ballad song.
That's right.
In the...
Is that like in your echelon of like movie scenes having the knife moment for you?
I mean, it's a good knife moment. It's a big knife moment.
Yeah.
I mean, anything with a ballad song is going to rank highly with me.
I want to come up with one before you say it. Keep going, but
I'll just give you one other one. But seriously, watch the montage. It's fun.
I think of Face Off. Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, Face Off.
Okay.
Yeah, another one that comes to me though is Falling Down.
Michael Douglas.
There's a scene where he's getting robbed. And the guy pulls out a ballad song, and it's actually, if you watch that scene, please YouTube this scene, because the guy pulls out the ballad song and he kind of tries to do an opening, and he completely fucks it up, and it looks super sloppy.
Oh, okay.
And it's what made the final cut for the movie, so it's pretty funny. So
it was his best attempt.
Yes, as a ballad song flipper, I always cringe a little bit at that scene in Falling Down. But anyways, I had to bring that up because I just thought that was so funny that there was a ballad song in this movie. And just one other little side note about that scene is, he does drop that line, let's see if these moves fuck. This is a PG-13 film.
Oh yeah, we got an F-bomb.
So this was a rare F-bomb. Did he drop it at the right time in the right context?
I mean, for me, yeah, because I that's memorable for me.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's well used. I don't know. I still just wish this was pushed to an R and they went even harder with it. But
no,
it's good.
I respect that. That's where they put it.
That is the one thing about PG-13. They have one moment for that. They don't just overuse it, and they're not overzealous with it. They just they have that one moment.
And I feel like
typically, if it has weight, great.
Typically, they save it for like the hero or somebody noble to like really just kind of drop it.
Like an Armageddon.
Perfect like example. An Armageddon.
Yeah,
exactly. Great point.
Our past episode.
Billy Bob Thornton says it.
Mm-hmm. What a great callback to our old episode.
Yeah, so I respect the fact that the villain gets to say it.
Yeah, that is fun.
I like it.
No, I respect Nick, your call out for the ballad song.
I've been enlightened, you guys.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I feel like I'm sitting in a red velvet chair in Nick's corner with all the gold. Everything's gold around me, and there's ballad songs flying around.
Surrounded by Dolly paintings.
I love it.
It's like Knives Out.
Postmodern art. Yeah,
that's great. My half-assed corner would be just looking at watches and films.
Oh, we'll get into your corner.
Yeah, we'll get to that one day.
We'll get to your corner.
We'll get to everybody's corner.
There's some great ones in this film. I won't get to it, but I'll get to it around.
So, guys, that exhausts my rapid fire / slow burn topics. I don't know if you guys have anything else.
It's probably a good thing because this is probably by far our longest episode.
I know, we are really just crushing this. And the funny thing is, I thought this would be one of our shorter ones because it was kind of, the movie was, not... I didn't take as many notes on it, honestly, as I did on a lot of these other movies, so I'm surprised.
I blame the Woodenville.
Woodenville, we love you.
Thank you.
You rat shit.
90 proof, bitch! Okay, a little too much Woodenville. Here we go. So, guys, I think that brings the slow burn segment to an end, and I think that kind of gets us to the tail end of the episode. Before we give concluding thoughts, though, I do want to bring something up that's very, very important. We've gotten a little bit of feedback on our podcast, and we really, really appreciate that feedback. And so far as we know, it's not from one of our mothers or friends or something like that. We think we've got some genuine comments. So we really appreciate all of you that are listening to us and commenting. That's just super awesome. We think you are the best. So actually, we got a comment here. And we will. If you guys give us comments, we'll read them. So please send them in. Even if you guys suck and it's the most trashy podcast on the internet. Whatever.
I mean, give us a scathing review and we'll read it. That's great content.
Yeah, that is great content.
Talk about how Brian's corner should be burnt to the ground. That's great. That's amazing.
Crusty, dirty video store corner.
Warts and all. We will take any comment you've got. But the comment I'm going to read tonight is from Cinna V. I hope I'm saying that right. And the comment is really well done. Fun podcast. Feels like I'm sitting around with friends having a beer and talking about movies. Highly recommend. So, Cinev, thank you so much, sir or madam. We really appreciate that comment. You are no doubt an absolute boss, and we really appreciate you listening, and all the rest of you as well. So, All right, guys, we have, belabored this movie, I think, a little bit here tonight, but we had some fun. So, I think that's good. But let's give some closing thoughts, guys.
I'll keep it quick. I don't feel like the movie has that kernel that I talk about sometimes that makes it special, and I think that just doesn't add enough to the movie to make it be great or even good. I would watch the movie again, though.
That's a great... Yeah, I like that, Brian. Thank you. I think with my 83 review, I was definitely in the first viewing 70-80, so I think pushing it to that low 80s now for me in a second watch, I think it has some good rewatchability. So I like this film a lot. It was a lot of fun, great characters, but yeah, I'd see a sequel.
Yeah, and I'd just say, decent action, somewhat forgettable, worth a watch if you like action movies, but nothing special in my book. So, all right, guys, we got two more quick things to cover before we call it a night here. One is, I think, I just want to bring up, and maybe we can just bring this up preemptively, maybe we'll start doing one planned icebreaker and one impromptu icebreaker, but how could our icebreaker next episode not be, what is your ultimate folding laundry movie?
Oh, that's the question right there.
Oh, man, that's a great segment going forward.
Because it's almost like a vibey question. It's almost like we talk about rewatchable movies where you're kind of glued to the screen or, great movies. But what's the movie that you just want to be on to keep you company?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So we'll talk about that next episode.
It's a good question.
Marinate on that question, please. And then we'll do an impromptu question as well.
Add it to your reviews, yeah.
Yep. But the other thing, of course, is we need to tease next episode's film. And the last two episodes, I made an executive decision. Grizz made an executive decision on The Gray Man. So it's only right that Brian tonight gets to make an executive decision about our next movie. So, Brian, please, kill the suspense. What is it?
Welcome back to Brian's Corner. I have an announcement to make. Episode 14 will cover the movie Can't Hardly Wait.
Ooh,
fun.
There we go.
Fun.
All right.
I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I know we all have opinions on that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have some fun with that.
It's going to be a
sure.
whole different feel. A whole different episode.
Yep, it's going to be good. I cannot wait. And we
That just had to be said.
And I hope you all can't wait either. So thank you all again for listening to Critical Mess. You all are awesome. You are the best. We'll be back again with a new episode on Can't Hardly Wait here in a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. Soon. You can bet on it. So thank you all for being here, and until next time.
See ya.
Later.